Fake Gamer Girl said the shell was impossible, so I'm taking on the challenge. Hello, my name is Charmeliannn. I need to explain how we got here. I am currently working on the 4th shell in Fake Gamer Girl's Impossible Shell Challenge. I already made shells 1, 2, and 3 off camera because I didn't realize I was going to be making a YouTube video. I posted the first 3 parts to TikTok and it went viral, which I did not expect. So due to popular demand, I'm continuing this challenge on my YouTube channel. If you're interested in seeing those first 3 videos, I also reposted them here on YouTube as shorts. But onto this video, let me actually explain what's going on here. I found Fake Gamer Girl's YouTube channel just a couple of weeks ago when her Impossible Shell Challenge video was recommended to me. It was chaotic and wild and I loved it, but I didn't see it as impossible. I looked at all of these walls without roofs and thought, ruins. This would be the perfect build for an ancient, ruined Salvadorian museum. So that's what I'm making. Each shell is a different part of the museum. So I've already built a volcano exhibit, an exploration exhibit, and a wedding venue. And now I'm working on a playground with a bathroom because we don't have one yet. I feel like this whole build process with the shells divided into sections was way easier than trying to build a museum on an empty 64 by 64 lot. Because I could give each section its own theme and treat it like its own unique build. I know it might sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't consider myself a builder in The Sims. I generally do gameplay and cast creation. I've actually been planning on starting a Twitch channel featuring several gameplay series and random cast generator challenges. But I've had to postpone that launch for about a month, so that's why I was inspired to do this challenge right now. Look at this mountain getting in my way. The audacity, honestly. That's one of the things that makes this build so challenging is the terrain is just wild and sometimes it gets in the way and messes with the camera too. In this beautiful playground area, we've got that awesome pirate jungle gym. I don't know why I've got like a nautical theme in some of these museums. It doesn't make sense. I think Salvadorada is landlocked. I'm not sure. But when I see palm trees, I think pirates. I don't know why. Maybe it's because there are so many movies and games centered around colonialism that are filmed in a setting like this. Not the vibe I was going for, but I guess here we are. I spend most of my time working on terrain and landscaping since this is a majority outdoor build. Funnily enough, when I did have the opportunity to make indoor builds, I just kind of didn't. We'll get to that in a second. First, I have to pick out a tree for this corner, and you would think that wouldn't be so hard, but I spent so long testing different trees to see which one might look the best, when honestly, they all look exactly the same. I think this is the beginning of my slow descent into madness working on this build, and I think I know what Fake Gamer Girl was talking about. All right, just pick a tree! Or a bush, I guess. I use that Swiss cheese plant, I think it's called, all over this build. It's big, it takes up a lot of space, and it helps camouflage some of these ridiculous holes. I also use this bush a lot in the dips in the terrain. It's called Naupaka. It looks really nice and natural. I spent the entire time trying to make this build look as natural as possible when it's really just not. It's just chaos. This is when I remember there are tons of beautiful vines in this game, and so I went crazy on the walls in this build and the next ones. Again, I'm not a Sims builder. I don't typically decorate the exterior shells, so this was a really fun exploration for me. Just adding a few more leaves and vines, and then we're finished with this one. I also found these super cool glyphs from Jungle Adventure. Most of this build is from Jungle Adventure, as you could probably guess. So here is our playground, all finished, but no time to celebrate. We've got to move on. Next, I'm building what I thought was going to be a cafe, but long story short, I just didn't. This is when I started to struggle. I really didn't know what I was doing at the beginning here until I found this amazing wall. And then I felt like I had some structure. I had something to work around. I felt grounded and at peace. That is so not true. I'm in denial, but we're going with it. I'm spending a lot of time here playing with Salvadoradian elements from Jungle Adventure. Something that you rarely ever get to use, but this is the perfect place to do it. I'm gonna be honest, I took a break from editing to watch The Mandalorian, and oh my goodness, I'm so inspired. It reminded me so much of not only this build, but the Journey 2x2 pack, which I don't have, but I might have to grab it. I don't know if I have the skill to build Star Wars buildings, but it'd be fun to try. I would also be really interested to try building the Casa Madrigal from Encanto. Am I getting too confident? Because when I was building this shell, I was having such a hard time, especially at this point and the next one, But now that I've overcome it, I feel like I can do anything. Honestly, I think I need to slow my roll and humble myself a little bit. I probably won't get Journey to Batuu unless it goes on sale. Some of the comments were mentioning that buying The Sims is really expensive. If you got every pack The Sims 4 has ever released, it would be over $1,000. If you're thinking about getting The Sims base game for the first time, wait until it goes on sale for $5. Any other expansion pack or a game pack, I always wait until it's at least 50% off. That's how I afford The Sims. It does mean waiting long after a release, but I think it's worth it. That way you can get a sense of whether the community thinks the game is even worth it or not. Because let's be real, some of the packs just don't live up to our expectations. If the pack isn't adding enough value to my gameplay, I'm not going to spend money on it. That's just practical simming. The packs I'm using mainly in this build are Jungle Adventure and Island Living. I think there are also some ancient ruin elements from Get Together that I use. All three of these packs are really great for building and gameplay, which is rare. I would be talking more about what I'm building, but honestly, most of it is just landscaping. It's pretty self-explanatory. I think the reason I was really able to thrive in this challenge is because I haven't built that many shells. I've actually only ever done one shell challenge before, so I had no baseline for what I like to use, what's acceptable, what's possible in the realm of physics and architecture. So I was just being really creative and fun and following my whims like a sim does. If it looks like I have a semblance of knowing what I'm doing, it's because I edited out all the parts where I'm just spinning the camera frantically. And I use building hacks from other simmers, like putting brown terrain paint under every element on the lot because it makes it look better for some reason. It's just something that every Sims builder does, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it makes it look more realistic, maybe it adds depth, but I want to know who your favorite simmers are and what kind of Sims content do you like to watch. If I'm gonna fuel your escapism, I'm gonna do it the right way. We're almost finished with this shell, and if you haven't noticed, I haven't turned this into a specific venue yet because I completely forgot to do so. I was going to attach the platform to the rest of the building. Yes, you. But it's too late now, so I had to get creative again. So instead, I put skeletons in the windows like you would see at an attraction or like a theme park. And I think it turned out better than if I had tried to cram cafe build items in there. Instead, I'm using this opportunity to fulfill one of the museum build requirements, which is adding an easel. Can you just imagine like a world-renowned painter coming to this museum to paint? How relaxing and peaceful. This is when I got the genius idea to add backlighting to these skeletons, so that at night it's all glowy and it really puts on that, although this is a museum, this is also an attraction that we put on especially for you. Because museums are presentational, they're informational, but they're also fabricated. Not necessarily the history or the artifacts, but the elements that are included in the design. And with that, we have finished the 5th section of this museum. We are finally halfway through this build, but little did I know, it got so much harder. And I'm gonna be honest, I think I made it harder on myself by choosing this concept. I still wanted to include a dining venue since that's a common feature in a lot of museums, but I wasn't really digging the cafe idea anymore, so I decided to go for a restaurant. I was using decorating this greenery over in the corner in here to stall because I was kind of dreading this build. In fact, I think landscaping was my coping mechanism throughout this challenge. Whenever I was stuck, I just threw down some more plants until I had another idea. But I eventually conceded in starting on the dining area. I've noticed that when I'm building, I tend to spin the camera and zoom out a lot. Does anyone else do that? I feel like I have to view the object from every possible angle and view every swatch there is before I can make a decision. For example, choosing a rug. What if there's a better rug that I just haven't tried yet? I know the swatch looks perfect, but I'm gonna try 20 other swatches anyway. Ooh, so this is actually a really cool build trick coming up. If you hold Alt and you have BB Move Objects on, you can put plants inside of these decorative pots. To change the height of that plant, I'm using the right bracket key. I didn't come up with that idea, but I don't remember where I saw it. These windows are actually from City Living, and I think they, excuse me. Yeah, one of the challenges of this build is the terrain kind of gets in the way when you're moving the camera. I finally found the confidence to continue building the dining room, but what you don't see are the 5,000 different tables I tried. We just don't have enough time in this video. And yes, there are still 4 more builds to go, but after this one, I feel like the challenge kind of got easier. And I technically did this build challenge completely out of order. I started with square 1 and then moved on to square 7, 8, and 9, and then went back to squares 2 and 3, and that's what we're working on now. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I recommend you go watch Fake Gamer Girl's original shell video. I will leave a link in the description just for you. After I've covered this place entirely in vines, we're finally putting the kitchen down! And remember, if you want to download a build but you don't have all of the packs that are included, you can replace the object yourself or the game will do it for you. I will put the gallery link to this shell down into the description, although I'm not sure why you would want to download it. This build is way too big and too complicated for me to playtest, but I'm pretty sure it's not fully functional. The wedding venue should work, except when it rains the appliances will break. Same thing for this restaurant. I could download each of these 10 shells as an individual room, so you could download the restaurant if you wanted to, or just the playground. My gallery ID is Charmeliannn with 3 N's, and so are my Twitter and TikTok. Oh, and just ignore that tree. I'm saving it for later. I feel like we've bonded over the last 10 minutes, so I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. So my handle is a play on words. My name, Amelia, and the Pokemon Charmeliannn. But I've never played Pokemon before. Not the card game, not on DS, not on Switch. Not me, not Hermione, you! I'm sorry, I just had to. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this shell challenge is the beginning of my slow descent into madness. And if I'm gonna go mad, I might as well do it on the internet, right? We can all just lose our minds together. But seriously, I need to rectify the Pokemon situation soon. There are just so many other games coming out this year that I want to save up for though. Hogwarts Legacy, Stray. Really hope Haunted Chocolatier comes out. I enjoy The Sims, but it's not my favorite game. In fact, it's probably one of my least favorite. I often joke about how if there was nothing wrong with The Sims community would have nothing to complain about, and therefore nothing to bond over. Being too expensive and non-functional is like the hallmark of The Sims. Every big simmer has ragged on The Sims at some point because we all agree it's just kind of a terrible game. But here I am playing it, building for hours on end. It's kind of a social phenomena. I've made some really good progress with this restaurant. It's finally starting to come together. I'm adding tons and tons of details to this and just taking a moment to save my game. Now let's make the front of this thing actually look like a restaurant. The waiting area is actually in the back of this restaurant, which was kind of poor planning on my part, but I feel like real-life builders make these kind of errors too. Another mistake real-life builders makes is bathrooms. They never make the women's bathroom big enough. You would think after a long history of there being lines outside the women's bathroom and not the men's, you'd think they'd adjust accordingly. Does anyone else think about random things like this, or is it just me? These are the kind of thoughts you have when you're in the shower or when you're lying awake at night. But apparently I have them while I'm recording voiceovers. I did part of this build on TikTok Live, and I could not for the life of me find this podium. I spent so long during that live trying to find the dine out podium, and then I realized that I could filter something I'd completely forgotten about. So yeah, if you're ever looking for something from a specific pack, the filter is on the right, not the left. That would have saved me so much time earlier, but it did save me time on the rest of this challenge. I got really carried away with making this diner really cute, and I spent way too much time on it. But we're finally nearing the end of the 6th shell, and I could not be happier with how it turned out. Not a huge fan of the dine out pack and gameplay-wise, but this build kind of made it worth it for me. If you notice, I'm using a lot of the same terrain tools and architectural elements over and over again. That's because I want the whole build to be cohesive, even though I'm working on individual shells. This isn't a requirement, this is just something I wanted to do, and I think it made it a little bit easier. Moving on, we don't even have time to celebrate that one. Saw that tree again, right? It'll come into play later. So once again, I'm starting this shell with no idea what I'm gonna do. I turned this giant column into a flagpole, and there's that tree again. Moving it over to the next build for later. And I can't forget to put the Swiss cheese plant on top of this spike. Saw someone else on the gallery come up with a really good idea. They used a bush to turn that into a giant tree. This awkward little divot was also giving me trouble. I was like, a fire pit? But the Sims can't really get to it. And it honestly didn't look that good there. You can tell I'm just kind of jumping around this build a lot because I'm waiting for the inspiration to strike. Literally, that is how I've gotten through this whole challenge, is just kind of doing stuff until it starts to make sense. I needed another grounding moment like we had 2 builds ago. So I decided to actually make a building, a tiny one. I'm turning this itty bitty shell into a bathroom because the Sims don't really like the public bathrooms, and I haven't had the chance to build an interior yet. Well, I did, but I forgot to do it. And I kind of built an interior on the outside with the restaurant. And the second venue I built, the Exploration Museum area, Kind of. I feel kind of bad because throughout the rest of this build, I continue to not use the buildings that are provided as actual buildings. I also changed up the design of this so it's not the same stone that we've been using for everything, and that's what helped me decide to turn this into a guest services area. This is like the welcome center, the very first place you come into when you come to this museum. It's right next to the restaurant, perfect for funneling traffic through there and boosting revenue. Look, a design choice that actually makes sense. I decided to put a big monument here instead of that fire pit, and I went with the astronaut because I've got a few other Easter eggs around this build too that point to alien evidence. For some reason, that weird show Aliens that's on the History Channel kept popping into my head while I was making this build. I've never seen it, but I'm pretty sure the premise is that all historical events could have been caused by aliens, which, I mean, I guess? I have no opinion on that subject. However, when it comes to The Sims, conspiracy is what makes the game more interesting. Drama in real life? Absolutely not. Drama in The Sims? Heck yeah. I'm also adding some paintings and exhibits to this area as well because a lot of museums tend to have art in their lobbies. Outdoor museum, outdoor lobby. I love how I'm trying to apply logic to a build that is just not logical. I am really trying my best here. I don't know why. I have nothing to prove, but I am quite the perfectionist. That is such a lie. The whole reason I started this challenge is because I saw the word impossible and I thought, there's no way that's impossible. If anyone can do it, I can. So I'm trying to prove that. Here I go grabbing elements all the way from the other side of the map again. I cut out the parts where I was zooming in and out a ton because it was making my head hurt. When I look at the computer too long, I tend to get migraines. But somehow I didn't get one working on this build. I think God just knew I had enough to handle. Partway through, I kind of got tired of all of the walls looking the same color, so I decided to change it up and use a different swatch from Jungle Adventure. I'm not sure how I feel about this decision. Honestly, it could go either way. You could definitely say I was getting decision fatigue at this point. I kind of feel like I'm watching my villain origin story, maybe my coming of age burnout story. Speaking of which, that's actually how all of this started. From high school to college, I developed extreme burnout, and I'm using gaming and content creation to rehabilitate myself. It's something that I love doing and can spend hours focusing on without breaking. I don't play competitive games, so I don't have to worry about performance. And that is the crux of my burnout, this crippling fear of failure. So doing this challenge is actually a big step for me, because I'm okay with failing this challenge. I'm just exploring my creativity in ways that I haven't before. Okay, I'm starting to sound like Bennett Foddy from Getting Over It. Maybe this is actually my wide old wizard arc. I will teach you the way, younglings. For real though, I think the majority of this audience is younger than me. At least on TikTok it was. I'm really interested to see how that converts to YouTube, and oh my gosh. Okay, at this point I'm panicking. I don't know. I completely forgot about this section. I just kind of take the go away green from the other build that I did, the third one, and I'm slapping it on there. I'm slapping some lights on there, some music, and that's my solution to that. Go away green is this specific shade of green that Disney uses to hide buildings and structures in plain sight. So they use it for lighting and audio equipment. I thought this idea was genius the first time I used it, but this time it's kind of sloppy, I'll admit. But you know what'll make it better? Just slap a tree right over it. No one will even know it's there. We weren't allowed to add terrain water, which I did in the first build, but I fixed it, don't worry. But we are allowed to add fountains, and I'm so glad because that empty space was bothering me. You guys, this build is almost done. I'm so stoked to move on, I'll be honest. This one really just wasn't my favorite. Boom! On to the next one. This is where I put that big tree, kind of like the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom. I am honestly giving myself a bad rap. I promise I'm Gen Z. Even though I've fallen into both stereotypes of Harry Potter and Disney, I'm just right on the line, so I'm barely a millennial. It's kind of nice to tote the line and have traits of both. I've never really been one to fit into the crowd. Can we just take a second to appreciate how hard I'm working on this tiny sliver of landscaping? I am hyper-focusing so hard right now. If you're not super into terrain, I'm sorry, because the majority of the rest of these builds are landscaping. But hold out for part 10 though, I think you'll like it. And by part 10, I mean the 10th shell. This one and the next one were honestly a breeze compared to the last two. I felt like I could breathe and relax, and I might have taken it a little too easy. See, what I didn't realize, and it didn't even cross my mind, that there is a normal square-shaped building on this lot. And you would think I might turn it into a functional building, right? Wait, just wait until you see what I did. I used the building to hold the base of this sized up statue. Don't get me wrong, I love the statue and it was my plan all along, but I feel like I missed the opportunity to actually build a shell. I got so used to doing weird stuff that I just did more weird stuff. In any other circumstance, it would be a great move, but I think I missed out on this one. To be fair, I've been working on this build for a long time, so I think it's okay for me to get a little burnout. I've been looking for an excuse to use this really pretty flooring from Cottage Living, and I mean, it kind of works here. I'll let you decide. I don't know why I've suddenly gotten so picky about my builds. I think because I'm comparing it to what I've already done, even though they're not comparable, because this isn't a venue, this is a monument. It's like a national park. And because it's in the center of the park, I wanted it to be more simple and symbolic. It's the centerpiece, so it needs to stand out in its own way. And I think simplicity was the way to go on this one. I've changed my mind. Look at me, justifying my own decisions to myself. Good job, me. And that's enough celebrating, let's move on. This is the 9th shell, another natural park inspired build. This one is more for decoration like the previous one, but I did add a couple of park elements. These wide flat walls also gave me a chance to use some of the greenery that I haven't been able to yet. It's not very often you get to use big build items in The Sims, especially when you start all of your Sims off in starter homes and never make it past one generation. Now this part I'm really excited about. I love city murals and huge wall art, so I had to add some to my build. Unfortunately, I was having trouble finding a mural that fit the style that I was looking for, but it kind of gives me looking backwards, looking forward vibes. A lot of museums do that. We interrupt this regularly scheduled program to bring you more greenery. I really can't help myself. Look, man, it's a really important part of the building process, especially since the whole freaking museum is outdoors. Clear skies, clear skies. There's the other mural. Again, super futuristic, but take that as you will. I'm fine with it, and I'm in charge here. So, finally making one of these floating rooms accessible. Ooh, and the way the stairs just curve around that, I did not plan it. So I had an interesting concept for this floating box. I turned it into a fully glass viewing area. Again, not sure how I feel about this one. It kind of looks like a prison. I guess I'll keep that in mind if I ever do a prison build. Okay, adding the wallpaper doesn't help, but the flooring does. Does anyone else find super modern builds a little bit dystopian? Like when it's just black and white and square? I need some life in my architecture. I need greenery. I need warm tones. If you couldn't tell from what I've been doing for the past 20 minutes. I want to say this entire build was inspired by this tiny palm tree that Fake Gamer Girl put in the corner here. I was like, palm tree? Run with it. We're going there. The whole thing's gonna be covered in palm trees. I really like the way this volcanic rock looks. I would dig this in a modern build. Maybe like modern beach house or a seafood restaurant with like those classy waterfalls that are behind glass. I'm doing it again though, that thing where I make a point and then I oppose my own point. I guess that's kind of what happens when you have an open mindset. And confidence. You're not afraid to challenge yourself and explore new ideas. Look, I've spent the last 2 years recovering from the deepest, darkest depression. And a side effect of that is just spouting wisdom off sometimes. I have learned way too much about myself. And why am I comfortable talking about this in the very first video on my YouTube channel? Because my greatest hardship is now my greatest passion. I spent so many years struggling alone because the people around me just didn't know how to help. And that is no fault of their own. The fact of the matter is therapy is just not accessible all the time. So now I have a strong passion for public mental health care and mental health awareness, because we should know the signs of mental distress the same way we know the signs of a heart attack or stroke. Oh hey, we finished the build. I know most of you were just here for a speed build or because you watch Fake Gamer Girl, and that's okay. I'm just super eager to contribute to the world. I mean, look at the state of it. It's a mess. But if you are watching this video and you're going through a tough time, know that you are not alone. I have been there and I've been through it. We are going to get through this together, one Let's Play at a time. Yep, that's right. You have to subscribe right now and promise that you will watch every video. If that is the only reason you have to wake up in the morning, I am happy to be that. I am now your accountability buddy, no take take backsies. So let me explain what's going on here. I have moved on to shell number 10. It's super long and narrow, so I thought it'd be the perfect candidate for a hedge maze. It actually starts at the back, so I think this is how you leave the museum. So I'm adding some signage, making it really pretty. I definitely kicked it up a notch for this shell since it's the last one. This is another area that I'm not sure is totally functional just because I don't know if Sims can squeeze through this little gap. But being functional wasn't in the rules as far as I know. I love how there are just a bunch of Sims just casually standing in the middle of my unbuilt museum. That's fine. As the players, we're supposed to be in control, but there's no controlling them. It's not that they have minds of their own, it's that they don't have minds. Like, they just don't know how not to stand in the doorway of the bathroom for 10 minutes. And the neighbors always come and play on your computer, and that's okay, but if you use their stove, they freak out. Get your priorities straight, Sims. I'm literally trying to make you free food. I'm adding more really cool glyphs to this build and this Aztec-inspired gold piece, decorating it up, making it look super fancy. I really like how this specific corner turned out. I'm a big fan of tucked away nooks that are well furnished. I'm either a hobbit or a gremlin. Continuing the hedge maze, I did sneak in a woohoo bush. I feel like no hedge maze in The Sims is complete without one. I also threw in this chicken because I felt like it. I can't really explain some of my design decisions, they're just too genius. Okay dudes, buckle your seatbelt because it's about to get different. I got tired of doing the hedge maze, so I just started throwing down a bunch of columns. And then I used windows to create a mirror maze. I didn't use actual mirrors because I had a mod installed that would have marked the build as CC on the gallery and made it harder to find. Building with windows was way easier for me anyway, and I think I deserve a break at this point. Seriously, on a build like this, cutting corners isn't a bad thing. Learning to balance quality and efficiency is a valuable life skill. And I'm gonna be honest, I need to work on the efficiency part because this build took me way too long. I don't know how it couldn't have though. It's massive, it's complicated, it was literally designed to be a nightmare. And that's why I'm adding a nice, relaxing spring here. I'm not sure if pools were allowed or not, but what's the difference between a pool and a fountain? Next, I'm building a really cute ancient courtyard. I guess this section is the gardens of the theoretical ruins that we're building this museum around. I'm really using this as an opportunity to use all of the build items from Jungle Adventure that I haven't gotten to yet. Because I remembered you can filter by pack. See, there's that trick again. So I'm finding all of this cool stuff and I'm on the last build. I wish I'd known about it sooner. We are finally, after all of this time, nearing the end of this challenge. I am known for chronically quitting things before I finish them, sometimes before I even start them. So this is kind of a big deal for me. Especially in The Sims, sometimes I'll get halfway through a build and just be like, nah, I'm bored, and log off without saving. And I do it on purpose. I'm one of those people that deletes save files that are almost completed just because I feel like I need to start over. It's just so satisfying to start fresh when there are all these possibilities, and by the time you get to the end of a project, you're already kind of bound by the rules of what you've already made. For the sake of continuity, I continue to use the same vines, the same wallpaper, the same glyphs. So I get eager and excited, and I tend to start my Animal Crossing island over and over again. Or I delete my old saves in Skyrim. I know this is sacrilegious to some people, but this is just how I live my life. Over the course of my childhood, I quit ballet, I quit piano, I quit baton, I quit gymnastics, I quit double bass, and after 7 years of marching band, I quit that too. I got my bachelor's degree in acting, and guess who's not doing that either? These are all things that I excelled at and worked really hard at, but I never really developed an attachment to them. Dude, I just had an epiphany. Oh my gosh, who says that? I'm gonna have to tell you about that in another video though, because this build is done. Yes, we actually finished the impossible shell challenge. And it looks good, if I do say so myself. Yep, that's how I feel right now. I have surprised myself with this build. I'm so happy that I was able to share it with you all and that you enjoyed it. The Sims on this lot are being weird, as usual. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and Girl, I'm trying to do an outro! If you're wondering, yes, that is my sim. Like I was saying, thank you everybody so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.